Well, thank you again for coming out and attending this, I think, historic date and plans that we have here for shared revenue for the state of Wisconsin. I'd like to also introduce other attendees, Representatives Krug and Representative Callahan, along with Supervisor Fred Schaefer of the town of Rib Mountain, Village Administrator Andy Kurtz of the very village of Marathon City, Marathon County Board Chair Kurt Gibbs, Village Administrator Ryan Vanderwall of Rothschild, and Village President George Peterson of Rothschild. So devoting 20% of state sales tax revenues to local government means approximately $1.5 billion, and more than $500 million in new money for local government innovation and public safety. $300 million innovation fund to encourage efficiencies, cost savings, and consolidation. And the state will provide financial incentive if local governments come together and provide service more efficiently. $227 million in new money for law enforcement, fire, EMS, public works, and transportation. We are tripling funding of existing grants to local governments to upgrade their 911 systems. We are providing significant increases for EMS providers to go towards ambulances, equipment, and durable medical supplies. We're also providing enough funds to double the state reimbursement for officer training costs, ensuring that law enforcement services are maintained and not subject to cuts. We also are repealing the personal property tax. So now, with more on the discussion, I'll turn things over to Representative Krug.
Thank you, Representative Snyder. And like Pat said, this is an exciting day. Since 2004, the shared revenue formula has been locked into place, and there have been communities that have fallen behind because of that. So today is a really historic day because I think there's literally one member of the legislature who's been around since the last time the shared revenue formula was adjusted. So yeah, it's a pretty amazing thing. So looking locally, I know myself and Representative Callahan are both on our county boards. A big chunk of this money is going towards our counties. We split it up really nicely between the counties, the cities, and the villages, and the towns all together. So overall, $1.5 billion, like Pat said, goes into this new segregated fund for local government. $227 million new dollars going into these programs for our municipalities that desperately need them. It's about 50% of this money that's actually going to the counties, and it's all population based. So it's not going to be any winners or losers. Guaranteed for almost every municipality to have a 10% increase. So everybody's going to have a chance to see some extra dollars come in because of this plan. So this, the funding that we're talking about is urgently needed, desperately, for our law enforcement services, EMS services, fire services, all these things. And our local leaders have been instrumental in coming to the table and telling us the things that they need and talking to us at our local towns association meetings, county board meetings, and everything else. When you talk about shared revenue, this plan takes the existing 750-some million, adds that 227 million, adds an innovation fund on top of it, and it's all indexed to the growth of the sales tax in the state of Wisconsin moving forward. I think it's the most important thing is that as we see tourism come back post-COVID, the sales tax money that's being generated from across the state from folks coming in to the state of Wisconsin is going to go towards all the services our municipalities need. So with that, I want to turn over to Representative Callahan to talk about the impact on local fire, EMS, and law enforcement.
Flip that over.
Flip it over.
All right, to continue the conversation on public safety and EMS and what this legislation does for the state of Wisconsin in that regard, this is going to significantly increase by $12.8 million the current funding for EMS providers through the Funding Assistance Program, otherwise known as FAP. The FAP program currently provides funds to ambulance service providers to be used for ambulances, vehicle equipment, and durable medical supplies. We expanded eligible providers to include EMR services to allow the funding to be used on additional items such as medical equipment that expires. Provides additional funds for law enforcement by doubling the reimbursement for training from $160 to $320. This reimbursement has been declining since about 2008, and estimates from the Wisconsin police chiefs show the actual cost of recertifying an officer to be $2,177. This legislation also creates maintenance of effort language for police, fire, and EMS based on the service level and includes a penalty if the service is not maintained. In 2022, while Wisconsin population grew, the state had the lowest number of officers since 2008, and the record of violent crime continued to rise. This also reduces the regulatory burden on rural EMS providers, which is very important for my district. It provides additional flexibility for ambulance staffing for non-emergency transport, prohibits DHS from requiring additional equipment on ambulances that is utilizing flex staffing, and makes the National Registry exam optional for emergency medical responders. And with that, I'll turn it over to Village President George Peterson.
We're skipping George. So.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna go right to
Fred Schaefer.
Right? Yep.
Hello, my name is Fred Schaefer. I'm a town board supervisor for the town of Rib Mountain. I just was elected to my 14th term, starting my 28th year of service to the town. I want to thank the legislators for their hard work on this bill and for the additional funding that will provide for local services in many towns and villages, including Rib Mountain. The shared revenue formula has been broken for decades, and it's wonderful that our leaders are committed to a solution that provides much needed additional resources to fund services. This is a permanent solution and provides funding for the future that ties economic vitality to local municipalities to shared revenue. Currently, Rib Mountain receives an extraordinarily little amount of shared revenue. Many small municipalities receive, with a fraction of our population, receive much more in shared revenue. The state collects millions and millions of dollars in state revenue, sales tax, from our vibrant commercial corridor, and we receive very little of that back. But this bill changes that situation. The cost to supply local services such as roads, elections, fire, and EMS have outpaced state aid and local revenues for a very long time. One example is one of our road projects that we're working on, Rib Mountain, our commercial corridor. It started off at about $1 million. Now it's projected to be over $2 million, double the costs, and just during the planning phase. With new state aid, Rib Mountain will be able to invest in additional EMS personnel, which is badly needed. We've had difficulty finding part-time volunteers to hire more, and need to hire more full-time people. The additional shared revenue will ensure the town can continue to provide EMS services into the future. Further, with the additional funds, we can maintain services throughout the town. I don't want the saying that in today's tough time that gravel is the new blacktop to come true, but I'm sure with this funding that will not come true. Again, thank you legislators for your leadership on this issue and for continuing to move this vital and important conversation forward.
Now, Village Administrator Andy Kurtz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Andy Kurtz. I'm the Village Administrator for the Village of Marathon City. We appreciate the effort that the legislators have put forth on this topic. As Mr. Schaefer indicated, this is a very important topic to all municipalities, all counties, and all towns throughout the state of Wisconsin. The efforts put forth by these gentlemen and their peers have been significant, and we truly, genuinely appreciate it and want to thank all of you for it. In Marathon City's case, it's not very much different than Rib Mountain. The revenues that we receive are significantly lower than some of our neighbors, and it's not necessarily about the equality there, but it's about the reductions that have occurred over the past number of years. As everyone knows, inflation has driven things up. As a result, the Village of Marathon City has tried to be as prudent as we can with our budgeting, which means we shift capital dollars from buying new equipment to repairing old equipment. In the fire service, for example, we've got 7 vehicles. The average age of our vehicles is 30 years old. So we have some very old equipment that works very well, but it's no longer in compliance with some of the things that it needs to be. This new funding will help us shift back to investing in capital equipment to maintain the level of public safety that we want to have. Streets is another great example. Our streets department's average age of the equipment is 16 years old. We have a lot of big hills in town, and we need plow trucks to plow those off. We have 15 miles of streets that we currently pave at a block a year. That'll take 100 years for us to cover all those streets. With this new funding, we're going to be able to expand our paving programs and again, reinvest in our capital, in our equipment. So again, we really appreciate the efforts that you guys are putting forward. We know this isn't done. There's a lot of process still in front of us, but we look forward to helping you complete that.
Thank you. Marathon County Board Chair, Kurt Gibbs.
Well, thank you. My name's Kurt Gibbs. I'm the Marathon County Board Chair. Haven't been on the board quite as long as shared revenue has been flat, but very close. I've been on the board 17 years, so I was first elected in 2006. So I've lived through shared revenue and the flat and the state, the lack of growth, and where those challenges have put us. Very thankful that we have re-energized and created a new system that is tied to the economic vitality of the state by tying shared revenue to the sales tax, and the sales tax growth is going to be unprecedented, and absolutely will change and provide funding that is so badly needed to all municipalities, whether they be towns, whether they be villages, cities, or counties. And so I want to thank the legislature for all of their hard work. As Mr. Kurtz has stated, clearly we're not done. We're not to the finish line yet, but we have a framework that I'm so thankful that all entities realize that the need for re-energizing and changing shared revenue is going to happen. So thank you, and thank the legislature for all their hard work.
Thank you. Village Administrator Ryan Vanderwall.
Good morning. Village Administrator for the Village of Rothschild, Ryan Vanderwall. I just want to echo what other gentlemen have said this morning as well. I want to thank the legislators here for all their hard work. Just as Andy Kurtz had said, certainly the work is not finished, but we are on the right track, providing the necessary dollars to come back to local communities such as the Village of Rothschild. Just as the town of Rib Mountain and the Village of Marathon City expressed, the Village of Rothschild is going through very similar changes and very similar problems. One of our issues right now is providing the necessary equipment, just as Marathon City is facing, to our fire department, our police department, and even our public works crew. We have, again, significantly old equipment. Same with Marathon City, we're having to borrow for that equipment right now. So what that changes for the tax dollars is being able to utilize that borrowed funds for different projects that can help the Village of Rothschild and the greater Wausau area expand forward. So again, I want to thank and echo what the other gentlemen have said. We're tremendously grateful and appreciative of what these legislators have done so far, and we're excited to go forward with it.
Good morning. On behalf of the Wisconsin County Association, I would like to both thank and applaud the legislature and the governor's office for working to revamp the structure in which we fund local government. It has been woefully inadequate over time. As Chairman Gibbs stated, we will now be tied to the success of the state. This is long overdue. We thank them for their efforts. We applaud them as they continue to work forward in that direction. And I know we still have a few things to work out and address, but we are looking very much forward to becoming partners in that success as we move forward and have the ability to better fund those services that the resident citizens of our areas require. Thank you.